Happy Thursday, everyone. I just wanted to make a quick video because Nancy, our secretary, changed our Facebook big picture to the Gifts of the Dark Wood, which is, of course, the Lenten series that we're currently going through. And my first reaction was, let's be a image of hope. Let's not emphasize the dark wood. And then I changed my mind because it's time to be realists. I could be a Pollyanna and say, yes, everything's good. Look for the brightness in this situation. But there's also a time to be realistic. And so that's what I'm doing here in this video. Unbeknownst to the worship committee, when we decided to pick the theme of the Gifts of the Dark Wood, did we even begin to think that we as a globe would be going through, literally, the dark wood? And so I just wanted to speak a little bit about this series that we're working on. We have 2 more Sundays to finish this series, but I wanted to review it and just kind of lift up the hope within the darkness. So we started with our first sermon. Our first exploration was how uncertain we can be in those dark times. What's going to happen with this coronavirus? Who's going to be sick? Is there going to be enough medical people to really help us through this crisis? What about the economic fallout? All of these things are so uncertain. And we explored the idea that, when things are uncertain, that's when we have to let go and trust. And trust is a gift. And so in these uncertain times, we learn to trust. Trust God. Trust one another. The next week, we explored the idea of when we're in a storm, sometimes we're struck by thunder. Thunder and lightning is such a prevalent image, symbol in both the Hebrew text and the New Testament. And the concept of when storms are all around us, there's also often flashes of lightning and a thunderous feeling that reverberates within our very soul. And that feeling of being thunderstruck in the midst of a storm kind of teaches us to listen to our heart, listen to the insights that are striking us in when we are struggling. They do come. God is always with us. God is always speaking to us. And it is in the storms that those flashes of lightning and those rumblings of thunder, we can pay attention to that, and we can learn from that, and we can call it God speaking to us. The third thing about being lost in the dark wood is the idea of getting lost. I've gotten lost in the woods many times as a hiker, and if you've read my sermon, you know more about that. But in being lost, we're often very anxious, and we are all very anxious right now. But in our anxiety, what also comes from anxiety is a heightened awareness of what's happening, what's going on. And that leads us to paying attention to our intuition. Our intuition informs us. And in our anxiety, if we can look to that intuition, we will find that there is an intersection between the material world and the divine world. And it all goes back to trust. Again, trusting our intuition. Our intuition is a gift. And so those times of getting lost, pay attention to that intuition that's nudging you in one direction or another, that's nudging you to say one thing, that's nudging you to write a note to someone, that's nudging you to take a nap, that's nudging you to do all sorts of things. Just pay attention to that intuition. That's a gift. Next Sunday, we're going to explore the idea of temptation. And many of us think of temptation as, we're tempted to do something wrong. Well, no, not yes and no. In this series, it talks about temptation as being something other than you're not, trying to do what others are called to do, instead of being your authentic self. We're tempted to be something other than our authentic self. And that temptation is not going to serve us well. So we're called to be our unique, beloved selves and act out in our own personal context. And facing temptation forces us to consider, who are we? What makes us unique? What is our authentic self? And how can we live out that beautiful, unique, wonderful, created human being that God has created and God has put on this earth? And so the temptation to be other than who we are, let's let go of that and receive the gift of being our authentic selves. Is a beautiful, beautiful thing. The final gift is kind of more of a summary of everything, and you'll get this sermon in 2 weeks, and that's the gift of being a misfit. Because, if we put all of these gifts together, if we trust God, if we pay attention to the insights that God is speaking to us, if we allow ourselves to be super sensitive to what's going around us in the face of anxiety, if we're tempted to simply be our authentic selves, if we do all of those things, we are going to be misfits. We are going to be different in a world that's filled with uncertainty and emptiness and thunder and being lost and being tempted. And we'll be misfits. And as a misfit, we will be a light in the world. We will be the hope in the world. And that's what we're all called to do. So I hope you do follow the next 2 Sundays, where we'll wrap up this timely series on the gifts of the dark wood. And then we move into the glorious season of Easter. We will not be gathering for Easter Sunday in any form other than perhaps electronically. The bishop has said that we will not be gathering again until May at the earliest. So I encourage you to all stay in touch with one another in whatever form you can other than face-to-face. And know that I am here. I am a phone call away, email away, a text away, a Zoom away, a FaceTime away, whatever you want. I am here for you. And I encourage you to call on me if you have any feelings of uncertainty or emptiness or being thunderstruck or getting lost or temptation, or not being that misfit, not being that hope in the world. So with that, I bid you adieu, and I will send out my Sunday worship on Sunday morning. I hope to see you all as often as possible electronically, and I wish everyone well.